held on Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. I'd like to open the meeting at 7:30 with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I roll call, please?
Mr. Carpenter.
Here.
Mr. Fitzer. Mr. Colbert. Mr. Kucera.
Here.
Mr. Nishai.
Here.
Ms. Redmond. Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Solomon.
Here.
And Mr. Tinlin.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the approval of this agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to change on the agenda? If everyone's happy the way it is, I will approve it the way it is. We will move on to the approval of the regular meeting minutes from November 14th, 2023. Last meeting. Motion to approve such.
I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes of
Meeting minutes from November 14th.
November 14th, 2023. Sorry, I'll pull it up now.
Support. Motion support. Nobody wants to change anything. All happy with it. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Nishai.
Yes.
Ms. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Solomon.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Kucera.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is public discussion. If there's anyone here from the public who wishes to discuss things that are not on the agenda this evening, here's your chance to come to the microphone and say something. Running up to the microphone, so I will then close public discussion. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, is site plan and special land use review for 850 North Rochester Road, which is Caliber Collision.
Hey, good evening, Planning Commission. I'm happy to present this. I worked on the ZBA variance case, as you're aware of in the staff report. So I'm happy to continue on with this review. Joe's just getting logged in real quick. He's going to share his screen, which will show the kind of the presentation that we are putting together. And I suppose I can just go forward with discussing it. But overall, this is just a summary of a site plan review and special land use for the new Caliber Collision business. The special land use is required because it's an auto body repair and paint shop being proposed. Physically, the applicant is proposing to really do some minor building facade alterations. They're looking to put in replace a couple overhead doors, it looks like. They're looking to close a few stalls of the overhead doors. They're looking to just rebrand the building to their Caliber Collision branding. And then they're doing a bunch of not a bunch of, but some minor site work that doesn't really entail the substantial engineering type of review, but really just kind of making a few revisions to the site. A couple of those things. So if we can kind of just scroll, I guess I'm kind of jumping kind of fast, but yeah, there's the site as it exists by street view. So it's the 850 North Rochester building and the parking lot. They're looking to kind of change the layout of the parking lot, as you can see here. Really no physical changes for the most part to that parking lot to the south, but just kind of updating the layout, reorienting the parking spaces. They're looking to add a fence that runs kind of along the front building facade continued. On the west side of that fence, that's going to be public and employee parking. And then beyond that will be kind of tandem temporary outdoor storage parking for the vehicles getting repaired. So as they queue in and out of the the shop. They just are parked there temporarily. This is the landscape plan. So, like I said, there was a variance that was granted by the zoning board of appeals last month, October meeting, that allows for this use within 200 feet of a residential district. So that's what the purpose of the variance was. As part of the conditions of the variance approval, the ZBA required a constant landscaping screening buffer between the residential property lines. So you'll see there on the plan, they are providing that. I believe about a 5 or 6 foot deep buffer with arborvitae screening to buffer that off. In addition to the existing 6 foot wall that's in place right now. Moving on, I suppose, to the, oh yeah, if you want to highlight that, Joe. Had the laser pointer out. So another slight little modification, they are adding a dumpster enclosure to the site, which I do not believe currently exists. So that's being new. It does need to meet the full standards of the ordinance. I'll kind of get to that in a little bit. So moving on to the I think to the renderings. Joe, the next slide maybe. Yep, so the applicant did provide some renderings on what the site will look like. I guess that's kind of the tandem parking layout that they'll have on the I believe that's beyond the fence towards the east portion of that parking area. That picture to the right at least is. If you want to move on to the next slide. Just some more pictures of the layout there, and then the Caliber Collision branding. Kind of moving on to just covering the staff report now. Some of the outstanding items we pointed out as kind of not compliant with the site plan review were the fact that the parking layout as updated is no longer a nonconformity because it's because the existing layout has been changed. So that being said, the layout needs to conform with all the size standards of the zoning ordinance. So some of the stalls did not appear to be 20 feet. They appeared to be 18 feet deep. We do not view the temporary vehicle storage spaces as parking spaces for the number of spaces required, but we do still want them to comply to the layout, kind of the layout and size and dimensional standards, just for consistent organization on the site. Also, the dumpster enclosure does not comply with the masonry wall standards of the zoning ordinance. I believe it was a fence that they provided. So there needs to be at least 3 sides of the masonry wall screening the dumpster overall. Moving on to maybe so some of the items that we kind of want PC to discuss and deliberate on or determine, kind of make a decision on as well, are the number of stalls. So it was not clear on how many stalls the building will contain to support the auto repair business. So the plans provide 18 parking spaces. So based on that number, there should be a maximum of 9 stalls. There should not be any more. Otherwise, the parking numbers will become non-compliant. For the screening swing gate for the dumpster enclosure, that's something the planning commission may require. Just because you can see you'd be able to see the dumpster from the road, and that's probably not a site that everyone wants to see as they're passing by the site. So you may require that screening swing gate by the zoning ordinance. Also, kind of a non-conforming item that us as staff kind of pointed out as important was the lack of rooftop appliance screening. They look to be pretty complex appliances up on the roof. We just wanted to point that out, that, maybe that's a nonconformity that should be corrected just to ensure a consistent aesthetic going forward. We also wanted to talk about the street frontage trees. So it was a little confusing on the site plan. There do appear to be 4 young trees that we would probably prefer not to be demolished if they don't need to be taken out. So I know the site plan showed 7 trees overall. It was unclear on if those 4 would be taken out and replaced with the new 7, or if 3 would be added to those 4. We also encourage just a variety of trees, so maybe the planning commission might consider requiring another species rather than 7 straight little leaf lindens. Lighting fixtures as well were a comment we flagged. There don't appear to be new fixtures proposed, but we do have concerns about the wall packs that are existing. We might want to require those to be fully shielded to respect the neighbors and not have light pollution affecting any adjacent properties. And then also as part of the special land uses use standard, or the use itself's use standards, adequate drainage patterns and grading are required for auto repair shops so that the site can dispose of surface water responsibly. Nothing was really discussed in the plans provided by the applicant, so that might be a question to confirm with the applicant. And lastly, I just want to again, bring up the fact that nonconformities are present on the site. Many are not being changed or intensified, so they are permitted to continue to exist. But then another reminder is just that this is a site plan review and a special land use request. You're reviewing both those aspects of the case tonight. And you have the power to enact any conditions as part of this special land use approval. So happy to answer any questions. I believe Gus is here. Gus, right?
Yeah.
As the applicant.
Any questions for our planner at this point?
Probably more for the applicant.
Okay, maybe the applicant, please.
Good evening. I'm Gus Wilson, and as was mentioned, we were here last month with the ZBA, and I went through a presentation there on Caliber. If you guys want to bear with me for 2 minutes while I just give a brief presentation on Caliber and their operations, just before we get into the questions, I'd love to go through just some highlights. So when describing Caliber, I like to start with what they're not. They're not a pull apart junkyard with wrecked cars. They're not a tire shop with open doors and loud air guns, and they're not an oil change facility with an abundance of chemicals being pumped into and out of vehicles. They're a high quality collision repair shop with over 1,300, although I think it's now over 1,400 stores, and they primarily handle insurance paid automobile repairs. They will address things ranging from a check engine light to a chipped windshield and damages caused by a minor fender bender. They're a great corporate citizen that give back to the community, and because of their size, roughly 30 states and over 1,300 locations, they're scrutinized by the EPA more so than others. So they're at the top of their game when it comes to environmental compliance, and so much so that they even hire a third party to come and inspect their stores to make sure that they are maintaining that environmental compliance. All work takes place indoors in a fully conditioned space. So it's nice for the workers. They don't need to open up the doors to have cold air come in. They like the work environment, and they're compensated well for being in that environment. They do not store totaled vehicles at all. Once a vehicle is deemed totaled, it is on a truck and sent away immediately. Because of their pay structure, they work quickly. Average time for a vehicle on the lot is between 5 and 10 days. That includes diagnosis, part procurement, and repair. So they like to get vehicles in and out quickly. Don't want to be storing them there long at all. They're typically open. They're all open Monday through Friday. And that's generally between the hours of 8:30 and 5:30 p.m. the latest. So the point is they have similar hours to that of a typical office setting, and you won't have disruptions over the weekend. We place them in power centers like Dick's Sporting Goods, Target, and others, and sometimes in more residential areas as well. And the point I'm trying to make here is that they're a good neighbor with good hours. And with that, I respectfully ask for your vote of approval. But if I may, I may go into some of those comments that were brought up. We did send a response back earlier today, so do you want me to run through our responses to those before you ask your questions, or how would you like to proceed? Yeah.
I'd like to save some time to it.
Absolutely. So to the comment about this use requires 2 spaces per service stall. I think the max would be 9 service stalls for the 18 spaces to be compliant. We haven't finalized our floor plan of the interior and how we're gonna maneuver that, but we'll make sure that we don't exceed 9 parking stalls to make sure we're within that compliance level. And generally we have 1 technician for every 2 stalls is kind of how the operations go. And then there was a question of additionally, the applicant should note whether any service vehicles are proposed to be kept on the site. No service vehicles will be kept on site at all. Typically, vehicles will arrive on a flatbed wrecker or driven in by the customer. So no heavy vehicles will be stored there. Parking spaces must be 20 feet in depth. No problem. We'll revise the layout to reflect the required 20-foot depth for the parking spaces that are open to the public. Trash enclosure, no problem. We will have decorative masonry walls instead of the I think we had chain link fence around, so we'll happily change that to masonry walls. Building materials and the number of rooftop appliances that are not screened. Understood. We'll provide screening for the paint booth ducts. The screening material will match the stucco finish and that the building has. So we'll make sure it's not an eyesore. Let's see. The 4 existing trees that were mentioned that were rather young along the front of the property. So in looking into this further, we want to try to salvage as many existing trees as possible. We're not trying to tear down any trees. However, it does appear that these trees are ornamental pair with likely Calari or Calari. They're prohibited species by the city and deemed kind of a nuisance tree, especially in parking lots because there's berries that drop in the winter and it starts to get fairly messy. So again, we're happy to keep the trees, but typically these trees are deemed not the nicest trees to have, especially around parking lots. Let's see. I know there was concern about lighting. We're happy to provide a photometric plan just to make sure that the lighting doesn't bleed over into adjacent properties or any of that. We're happy to provide that if you guys would like that. And drainage, I know, was also mentioned as a comment. From our understanding, the site does drain towards the back of the property. We can confirm this. There hasn't been a whole lot of civil design and analysis on this site, but we're happy to investigate that further if you guys would like that. I believe those were the main comments. If there's anything I missed, happy to discuss further.
When we talk about the draining, that's something that we on the planning, we're not engineers. So that I think would have to be handled by our city engineering, AEW. So I'm not too worried about that as long as they can confirm to us that that's going to be acceptable to them. And the other items on here, I'm leery of, like we're asking you to screen off the rooftop appliance and equipment units, and you say you can do that. But that's not part of the drawings at this stage. We don't have engineering drawings on that.
No, we don't at this stage.
No, see, I'm leery on signing off on something like that when it's not on the blueprint itself. You're going to say you're going to do it, and you may intend to do it, but unless it's on the print, I'm a little leery of it. Yeah, because I've had that problem with 3 or 4 other places around town, saying they'll do something and not coming through.
Understood. If you want to hold any restrictions or contingencies on the approval, then by all means, we're happy to. Yeah,
put on as one of the items.
Understood. Yeah.
The parking spaces, you say you can do that, you can conform to the 20-foot depths. That's doable?
Correct. And I believe my understanding from that is that those are for all the front spaces that are public, will be public parking. So I think there's 16 total inside the fence, because are you able to pull up the site plan? Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, where if you can see it on the site plan, when it comes up, but the front parking is, I think there's 2 rows of 8 parking spaces. And then we're going to install that sliding fence. So, and that sliding fence is chain link and has these vinyl privacy slats that we use at 90% of our Caliber locations. And then we're going to tie into the masonry wall as well. But so excuse me. So right here is where that gate is. So this is all customer parking and employee parking. When you have more, 12 is the magic number for customers. If you have more than that, sometimes employees will use it as parking. But all of these we can change because of the drive aisle width here. That is more than you technically need. So we can change that layout to make sure that we get to the 20-foot. Although my understanding is it's if you have room, if there's an overhang, if there's like a curve here and an overhang, you can do 18, but it would be 20 for any where there isn't room for an overhang. Because you know how when you park a car, there is if there's a wall in front of you, you're obviously stuck. You can overhang up to 2 feet or
Yep, that's correct. So you can have 18 foot on that portion near Rochester, because it looks like there's at least 2 feet of landscaping greenbelt area, so you can have an overhang. I mean, preferably you wouldn't be hitting any hedge plants, because that's would be a waste to ruin those plants because of overhanging. But it is allowed to have vehicles overhang 2 feet into some sort of a landscaping belt.
Can we move back to the microphone? People at home won't be able to hear anything.
I'll repeat that
at the mic.
I can just repeat the ordinance standard. So the
It's
2-foot
doable.
overhang is allowed in the to enable a space to only be 18 feet deep. As long as that area abutting the parking is at least 2 feet deep, essentially creating at least 20 feet.
Right, so the green belt has to be at least 2 feet deep.
At least, yeah.
Okay, and it is there at least 2
Yeah,
feet.
I
Because-
believe so. It might be something to confirm with the applicant or ask the applicant to confirm on a contingency.
I would have a hard time believing that's 2 feet. And then does that take away from the actual landscaping if you've got cars? Because what's the practicality of actually being able to put hedges there?
Yeah, I don't think the ordinance is specific enough to say, to kind of plan for that scenario. But if you think it's something that's really important to protect the hedge, or, maybe that's a contingency that you want to add in, to
Well, 'cause
protect
we
the
do
hedge or.
require, like a screening there as well, right?
You do, yes, and they are providing that hedge to make that screening. So I mean, maybe the alternative is to see if there's enough space for the parking space to provide that 20, so that you don't need to worry about encroaching the 2 feet into the hedge. Maybe that's the way the contingency goes.
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? Do what?
You might want to consider a condition on just requiring the full 20-foot
Oh,
on
right.
those front spaces, just so you don't have to
On
worry
all
about
Spaces then.
on all
essentially.
spaces,
Yeah,
yeah.
it seems like that would make the most sense, especially, I feel like right there, maybe there's 2 feet, but it's so limited that it would almost do away with any screening and green space that we're trying to implement.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Sorry, I might just elaborate on that quickly. So, if we change, so there's a chain reaction that happens with that. So if you change those ones, so you got look at the two rows along the front, the one that butts up against the fence, that will definitely need to be 20. So moving that 2 feet, that then shrinks your drive aisle 2 feet. And without adding additional pavement or infrastructure, then I'm just concerned if you then have to make the other one 20 feet, then you're shrinking your drive aisle a total of 4 feet. And I think that could potentially cause more of a hazard than if we kept it at 18 along the front and then 20. I'm not quite sure on what the measurements are. I'm a little concerned that if we are held to a restriction of 20 and 20 there, that drive aisle might be affected. That's my only concern with that. We can look into that further, and you guys obviously can hold whatever restrictions you need to. I just wanted to mention that concern with that.
The dumpster was mentioned. Can you highlight it on that? Is that in the back corner? Is that the
Yeah.
dark spot I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's right there, and we'll make sure to have a masonry wall around that.
Yeah, it's gotta be enclosed with masonry, and then they say that sometimes they require a swinging gate to
Yeah.
close it off. I see a lot of swinging gates on dumpsters around town, and the majority of them are left open all the time. That seems so far off the road. I don't think it's a big problem.
Something else I might add is where that fence I was talking about and with the sliding gate on the front, you won't see the dumpster at all. And that gate, that sliding gate is only ever open if a vehicle's going in or back. It's shut instantly.
Public doesn't
Public
pass that part.
does not see that. So we're more than happy to add a swinging gate to the dumpster, but I just want to let you know that there is that screening of that that gate on the front. But
Okay, any further
Can
questions?
you explain the parking behind the gate? That's
yes,
like back to back, because you could pull some footage from there to accommodate what we were talking about with the front.
absolutely. And that's something that if we get held to the 20 and 20, then we would have to shift that side of the parking. The only thing that does it, rather than the fence tying into the corner, it'll tie in a couple feet further back. Not a big deal. If we want to make sure to keep it where we don't have a potential overhang in the front, then we can make that. We can make whatever work.
Is that considered your like short-term storage?
Yes. So it's very common for all these Caliber collisions to do double stack parking. It's not like your typical just park into a spot and then you need all the space around you. They're piling cars in there and moving them in and out. Sometimes we like to have the lines there as part of an order of keeping things neat, but really they're just kind of guidelines. They're going to be putting cars exactly where they need to go behind there to make their operations as smooth as possible. But that helps their operations team, but it's not your typical pulling into a spot and pulling out. They'll make sure to.
It's your work area, so I think you can pretty much park where you want. I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously you're.
Yeah.
And that fence has obscuring slots all throughout.
That's correct. So all throughout. So anything that where all the double stack parking areas, everything in the back of you, it'll have a privacy screen around all of that because we want to make sure that Caliber provides a good look to the community and isn't an eyesore with seeing damaged vehicles. That's a huge thing for us.
I think my only clarification was going back to the screening on the front for Rochester Road. You said that there's hedges that's going to accomplish that screening. Is it, I think our requirement is like 30 inches or so. Was that all? I couldn't see that in the plan, but that is accounted for.
I believe you're saying the width of the hedges kind of, the height of the height. Okay.
The vehicle is facing Rochester Road and even the side streets right there. I mean, there's some streets and some.
Absolutely. That height would be no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the photometric plan, it says it will be required. I assume you can provide
Yeah,
the city with that. That's
we,
another
we
thing
can,
that-
we can provide. I don't know if it was originally requested or brought up, but we're more than happy to provide a
we should
photometric plan.
request that if we're granting this site. The other thing that concerns me is the planning commission may wish to confirm the drainage patterns and grades with the applicant. Like I said, we're not really detailed on the sewers, waters and things like that. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's up to the engineering department to do that. If we specify in our approval here that they must conform to AEW specifications, is that significant enough to grant? I mean, we can't control the sewer from here.
Yeah, I mean, it means AEW is gonna look at it and confirm it. They might have them scope their catch basin or something like that, just to make sure that everything's flowing
But
properly.
They have the power to accept or
Right.
reject that. Okay, so that's a separate entity, basically from us. Okay,
Can I just add on to
Sure.
that point real quick? I know a little bit further south. Some of the neighbors, not your property, but we've had drainage things going on. So with that said, we did mail residents for this one, right?
Yes.
So that they can come and let us know if there are already existing issues with drainage. The stucco. Am I wrong in thinking that? I thought we were moving away from the stucco on the buildings. Is that something that
building material.
we've kind of discussed already with him as a material or? And then my other question was, in terms of the wall, I didn't have a chance to get over there. Have we confirmed that that wall is in good standing condition and not in need of repair?
Um,
And
sorry,
like-
I'm happy to respond to all this. So, so starting with the wall, the wall is in good stand. We're gonna be painting it and making sure it's cleaned up, but it's not a structural hazard or anything like that. The wall is and it's in fine condition.
Okay,
And we'll be just painting it and cleaning it up, basically.
yeah,
So,
some of those walls
yeah.
get a little wonky
Yeah,
after a while,
yeah.
so, yeah, okay.
On the note about the wall, was it a 6 foot or 8 foot wall? on that side? With the-
I think they said 6.
I'm pretty sure 6 is right, but I don't want to tell you wrong.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know we were moving towards an 8 foot being required
Right.
going forward. But I think you did confirm there's gonna be arborvitae's
Correct.
surrounding that.
Correct.
And are they starting like little
No.
dwarfs? Are they gonna be like,
No, I believe our plan would be to do 6 foot arborvitae's. Sometimes they come in 6 foot or 8 foot. We would never do more smaller than 6 foot, but figured to
provide the height over time as well?
Yeah, yes, and they probably grow a foot a year, I would say. But typically what we do is 6 foot, and since it's a 6 foot fence, it kind of adds as an extra layer there. And then I want to touch on the stucco question. Given the fact that this is an existing building, if it was a new build, then we would stay away from whatever materials that you guys prefer not to use. But I think aesthetically, given that the existing material is that, to extend that out would probably look better and at the end of the day, in our opinion, but we can use whatever material you want. I just think matching it might look better for the existing building itself, since it's not a new build.
I mean, that stucco's, at least from what I can recall from that building, it seems to be in good condition,
Mhm.
like it's not falling apart. However, like, we're like trying to implement a
Right.
standard by means of this kind of review, right? So
Absolutely.
I just thought I'd kind of bring that up as a question floating around.
And it will be painted and everything, repainted and all that too. So
Are you happy with the paint color?
I mean, we don't choose paint colors here, but,
It's their corporate colors, so.
yeah.
yeah.
You guys aren't planning on doing any other sign aside from the one on the building, right?
I don't know. Aren't putting in a new sign from what I understand.
Are or are
We
not?
are not from my understanding, but I can confirm that with our architect to see if they've designed something. But as far as I know, we are using where, how the existing signage that it's shown on the renderings on the building.
Okay.
Yeah. Not the existing, but the existing location. Yeah.
Any further questions for the applicant? And for some reason, I have it on here, it says that I have to open this up as a public hearing in accordance with section 6.2, special land uses from the zoning ordinance. So at this point in time, I will open this to public hearing. If anyone from the public has any comments or complaints or anything to say, now is your turn. Being none, I will then close the public hearing part. We can move on to, if no one has any further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
There has to be two motions made, one for the special land use, one for the site plan. So you want to break them up.
Do they need to be kind of contingent on the same standards that we talked about, or like,
Yeah.
how does
I
that
was
work?
wondering if we could kind of.
Yeah, how do we
roll
make
those
it as
up
easy?
Yeah, so we were actually in a similar scenario with this a couple months ago, and granted, there's been some transition and we don't do special land uses all the time. So with approval of the special land use, you're basically just saying, yes, a collision shop is good to operate in this business, saying yes there. And then subsequently, you'll be reviewing the site plan, making a motion there. Sounds like there's some contingencies that this board wants and have them as part of the site plan approval. But the special land use is its own separate item.
So it'll be two different votes on it here.
Correct.
Can we just discuss prior to a motion so we can
Sure. Or you can,
not fumble motions?
or you can make the motion, we can second it, and I can have comments before we actually pull roll.
Well, I just want to make all the
Well,
contingencies.
why don't we do the
Let's do
special
the
land use?
Okay.
special land use first.
I'll make a motion to approve the special land use for 850 North Rochester. I don't know if you need more information than that. That's good.
As a collision shop support?
Yeah.
Support.
Motion, I have support. Any further comments on that motion? May I have a roll call, please?
I heard support twice from over here. Who was that? Sorry, I just want to make sure.
You can have it.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Gusero,
Yes.
Mr. Nushai.
Yeah.
Ms. Redmond, Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Motion passed. Now we need a second motion on the actual site plan approval with contingencies.
Can we discuss and just make sure we've got all the contingencies covered? Is that okay before
Sure.
making the motion?
Make a motion, if people want to add to it or subtract to it.
Okay, add to my motion, I guess. I'll make a motion to, accept the, sorry, to approve the site plan, contingent upon, I've got, the amended 20-foot parking, the photometric light plan, roof screening, and, the engineering and grading approval. I don't, I know there's trash enclosures too, but, I forget the stipulations on that. Do I just say that trash can?
Needed to be masonry, not fence. That was the.
Masonry, not fenced. Okay, thank you. I feel like there's another one.
We talked about landscaping and trees, but I think they treated the front. Trees.
Are we? Oh, maintaining, but are we maintaining? That's why I kind of wanted to have discussion before I went
I
forth
think,
with
yeah,
this.
that one's.
I think we want them to put in.
The question that was, I guess, still hanging out was, okay, we know that the 4 trees that are there are not a desirable species. The 7 that they were proposing were all the same species. Did we want them to provide more than one species, or were we okay with with 7 little leaf lindens?
Typically, I would say but I'm not Glenn, so.
Yeah. We're going different.
And Glenn, by the way, with the arborvitae's, I won't even go there, but, I do agree that the 4 don't necessarily have to stay there as if they're a nuisance, I guess.
Right.
I guess wanted to that.
Support. You want to stipulate the number of trees that have to be there or?
They've already got
or the
this.
number of
Yeah,
steps?
Yeah, I think the question is whether we're okay with them having the exact same seven, or if we want to have
Change variety.
have a little bit of variety rather than seven of the same.
Can we just say 2 varieties? At least they can keep that and then add 1 more.
Sure, yeah,
Alternate 'em with
something like that, that's, yeah.
In excess of one.
There, yeah, that's probably a good way.
And they can do 3 if they wanted to.
Yes.
Is that clear enough? And would you add that to your motion?
I will add that to my motion. Sounds good.
And have support for the motion?
Yes.
Anybody want to change anything
I
or?
think that covered everything.
I think we're good to go. Can I have roll call, please?
I'm gonna confirm those real quick, just to make sure we're good for the record. So we have the masonry structure be used for the dumpster enclosure, the photometric plan provided, the rooftop screening to be met. The city engineer will review the drainage and grading plan. 6-foot arborvitae's planted in the green belt between the residential areas. And then the last one that you guys were just talking about was the 2 species of trees used in landscaping is your recommendation?
And I think you didn't mention the 20-foot parking space.
Right.
Did you miss that?
I'm gonna put
Okay.
parking in, sorry,
So
and are we talking about the stalls and the numbers or no? Are we just gonna
They-
make sure that,
Contingent upon no more than 9 stalls. That's what he said. Do we need to hold it to him?
Yeah.
right, because it wasn't in their plan, right?
Need to stipulate that, it's not on the plan.
Just to.
Sorry, so
make
that'd be
sure. Sorry, Nate.
no, I just want to make sure we get the language
That would
correct.
be an amendment to the motion. I think you left off the 20-foot stall. And then we should probably amend the motion to include no more than 9 stalls on the final design. I don't know how to say that.
Support.
Sorry, just a clarification. The 20-foot, is that for both rows on the front or is it 18 and 20?
No.
Is that-
My intention behind that was all the rows because. Sorry if, I guess, everybody already got my support, but, because we kind of decided that there's only 2 feet of space-ish in that, so my intention would be to. But if you want to withdraw support, let me know.
No, I would agree.
Yeah.
It's 20-foot for both rows.
Everything west of the gate.
So we're in agreement with the motion that you made, that you supported. Everybody's happy?
Complicated, but.
We have to just.
That last
Your
one was
motion
like
and my
bloody.
support, I think, of the last one.
Just amended that.
Okay, can we have a roll call on this then?
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Cusero,
Yes.
Mr. Nushai,
Yes.
Ms. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Welcome to Clausen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8 is a site plan and special land use review for 1331 West Maple, which is going to become Culvers.
All right. Let Andy, relax on this one. Yes, so we're right near the intersection of Maple and Crooks here. Not quite on it, but right near it. And I do have some shots of the site that we can go through before I get fully into the review. Just to orient ourselves here. So. Started back at the beginning, so I gotta go all the way through everything. Okay, so 1331 West Maple. Looks like this from above. You can see probably a little more clearly in the letter that you've got that right now the building has a mansard roof on it that kind of provides the screening for the rooftop appliances. And that's going to become important to one of the items for consideration in the review letter later on. So I just wanted to point that out up front. Just some views of what's currently a national Coney Island. They are planning on reusing this building without really any modifications to its footprint. So just sort of going around the building here. This is what it looks like today. This is the back of the site, pretty much fully paved out back there behind the building. The dumpster enclosure is off to the side facing Maple Road. This is the southeast corner of the building, so you can see the rear and the east side of the building and what it looks like right now. This is the survey that was provided of the existing site. Again, you can see that the whole back of the site is all that parking area, all pavement. Look at the site plan. A lot of that behind the building, let me bring up that little handy laser pointer, is actually, this pavement is being removed from this area. So there's gonna actually be a kind of lawn there. And then the parking is gonna ring the back of the site, but you won't have quite the same large parking field that you have there now. It's gonna be a pretty substantial change. You can see that there's a drive-through. All Culvers have drive-throughs, or at least all the new recently constructed ones, and it wraps around the building. These spaces here that are numbered are waiting spaces. So the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe some of those are if you order ahead and some of them are when you're just waiting for what you ordered at the window.
The concept kind of works where you order and we cook your food to the order, and then you pay, and then you proceed and you wait for your food because it's a cook to order, a little higher level, kind of more fast food, so to speak.
Right.
So that's the order waiting area. That's small.
So you wind up with 10 of those spaces. There's a few up by the front and then a few in front of the drive-through queue. You can get around them if you need to. And then there's a few across from the drive-through queue. We noted in our letter that some of these spaces that kind of stretch out here beyond this parking area are actually in excess of our requirement by a fair amount. Good to know that there's some spillover. We would like to kind of know what their plan is for if they do get the spillover and these spaces are blocked, how they're going to manage that. But like I said, these are in excess of what's required. These are the elevations that they're proposing. So they're going to away from the kind of stucco-y look of the existing building. The toothpastey color of the roof is going to become more of a blue. And then the new treatment for the facade is more of a stone look. And that wraps on 3 sides of the building. And then the rear of the building has the brick going across it. Interior changes to the floor plan mean that some of the windows that are in the back are going to go away, but there are other windows being opened up on other sides of the building. So the exterior appearance, in spite of the fact that its footprint isn't changing at all, the exterior appearance of the building is going to change quite a bit. This little canopy that sticks out here is sticking out over the drive-through lane. I will jump to the letter and then come back to this to sum up. So the drive-through use here is a special land use. So that's one of the reasons we'll be having a public hearing tonight, and we'll be doing the same 2-motion structure that we just did for the other case. So we'll be well practiced. This is actually about a 70,000 square foot site. So it's a substantial site for a Clausen commercial site. We have a lot that are quite a bit smaller than that. It's in the BRD2 Business Renewal District. Most of you will remember that restaurants and drive-throughs north of Arlington were added to that district earlier this year as part, or Anderson, sorry, Anderson Court were added to the district earlier this year as part of an amendment. One of the things I'll note, because we dealt with it on the last site too, is that, you know, when we reviewed redevelopment or renovation of a developed site, our aim is generally to bring the site as substantially into compliance as possible where nonconformities are currently present. However, the planning commission maintains a degree of discretion as to when to accept an existing condition or to allow a nonconformity to persist. Looking at the surrounding zoning, it's mostly BRD2, except for across the street, which is Troy. So they don't have a BRD2 district. They have the Maple Road district, which is a form-based district that includes lots of industrial and commercial uses. The surrounding uses are all commercial and industrial. This does not actually, it's one of the few sites in Clawson that is commercial and doesn't happen to abut any residential property. So they are going to be establishing this drive-through Culvers. And the changes to the site that we talked about earlier. The new dumpster enclosure is going to be more behind the building than the one is right now. The one that they have on the site right now can actually be seen from Maple. This one will be a lot harder to see. They're meeting the dimensional requirements of the BRD2 district. Setbacks here are quite a bit in excess of what they are required to be. Site currently has 128 parking spaces. And we find that 52 spaces are required for the proposed use. They're providing 54. And then there's also some waiting spaces for food pickup. And then they've got 15 stacking spaces. We're not counting the 3 that extend beyond the end of the stacking lane that block those parking spaces. Because they show 18 on the plan, but we're really only counting 15 of them. They are required to have 7, so they've got a little more than twice what they're required to have. Dumpster enclosure meets the standards. They included a rendering of it or elevations of it in their plan. It's all masonry. One thing that we didn't get is a detailed landscaping plan. We got a conceptual landscape plan. So we don't have a planting list. A full detailed landscape plan demonstrating compliance with 515 is going to be a requirement here. We looked at the building materials. As I noted earlier, they are moving away from that white and aqua color scheme to a kind of stone and dark blue. If you've ever driven past a Culver's, you know what this looks like. Couple things to note, mansard roofs are typically prohibited in the BRD2 district. In this case, they're renovating a building with an existing mansard. That mansard provides a screening function for all the rooftop appliances. So you can permit the mansard roof to carry forward as a nonconformity if you're so inclined. Parking is typically not permitted in the front yard in the BRD2 district. So to the extent feasible is the language in the ordinance. In this case, the building's not being expanded or relocated or torn down and rebuilt. Parking does exist in the front yard. Permitting that to continue seems to be a reasonable continuation of an existing nonconformity, just given all the other things that are going into the redevelopment of the site. Sign application will be required for approval of any signage on the site. We do need a lighting and photometric plan. One was provided earlier today. I've not had time to verify whether it meets all the standards, but generally speaking, from an informational standpoint, it provided the information we need to make that assessment. If it is not compliant, you know, we would mark it up and send it back to them. They are realigning the eastern portion of the sidewalk in accordance with our engineers' recommendations. They're not aligned right now, so if you cross that driveway on the east side of the site, you come out here and then you have to go diagonally across the driveway to cross. So they're actually aligning that. It's going to be a much better situation for any pedestrian walking past there. We would like to see more of a connection from the building to the sidewalk, including a marked crosswalk in the parking lot shown on the plan. One little note on access, there's a cross access point to the gas station next door to the west. They've actually provided a copy of the agreement that allows people to move between sites at this point. So we do have some verification that that little access point can be used for traffic in both directions. We have some standards that are specific to drive-throughs. Some of them apply to the menu boards themselves. They did provide some details of the menu boards earlier today. We didn't have them at press time. So we can talk about those a little later. Other comments of note in there, where the exit from the drive-through lane faces a roadway. Said exit shall be screened from traffic on the roadway by evergreen shrubs reaching a height of no less than 3 feet in order to prevent headlights from shining directly onto the roadway. They have a planting bed up front, so there is an opportunity for that here. Again, we don't have a detailed landscape plan, so we didn't see that on the plans, but we can require that. We can require that hedge along the whole front of the site, as we typically would, to block those headlights. Also, the center line turning radius of all drive-through lanes has to be a minimum of 25 feet. Just measuring it on the plan, it looks like the standard is met, but we would like that to be labeled on the plan, as well as the width of the drive-through lane, just to verify that. Scaling it, it seems to work, but we need it to be verified. Same with the length of the vehicle spaces for the drive-through stacking. I'll just highlight it again. We always put some notes on sustainability in here. We are substantially reducing the overall amount of pavement on a site that's almost completely paved at present. So that is definitely a step in the right direction from a sustainability standpoint and on a stormwater management standpoint. So they are going to be doing some on-site retention work as well as part of our engineering requirements. So that will also be an improvement because right now this site doesn't have anything like that. So that's going to make a difference. We added the standards for granting special land use approval to the letter as well, just so that you can review that. We don't get a lot of special land uses through, so always good to remind ourselves of what our standards for review are. If you have any questions for me before we go to the applicant, I'm happy to answer them.
Joe, did you take a look at any of the transparency changes since the exterior of the building is changing significantly? The windows are obviously changing.
Sure.
Do they still meet the transparency requirement?
Right. The BRD2 district doesn't have as rigorous a requirement as like the downtown, for instance. Yes, they are definitely still meeting those standards. Yep.
Joe, are you on our packet thing, or is this? Are you on our packet up there? I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, when the drive-through.
Mhm.
On page. Like 59, it talks about, how wide the aisles are. I was just wondering if maybe we can. So it says that the aisle's like 24 feet, but that's from the end of the parking spot to the curb. I guess, can we kind of go into more detail because we haven't done like a drive-through?
Sure.
Can you kind of go over those again so we can like?
What's the page in the actual memo? What's the page number in the memo? Here.
I'm looking at a photo, not the
Oh.
explicit, I'm looking at page 59, which has a photo that labels the width of the aisle, like.
Oh, gotcha. The site is the site plan probably is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Hang on. Yes, I can bring that up.
If you like, I can address some of those questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll do that in a second.
Because I'm not sure where the 20-foot, is that starting from the car or?
So you're asking about the width of the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, drive-through lanes shall have a minimal center line turning radius of 25 feet.
Right, so the center line turning radius, that's the shallowness or depth of the curve. So it doesn't it's not actually the width of the lane itself, it's the angle of the curve.
So it's like,
Right, so we look to make sure that cars going around the curve aren't gonna like be going up onto the curbs when they're
Gotcha. Okay,
turning.
I thought you were talking about the width
Yeah.
of like the actual.
No, not the lane itself,
Okay.
no, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
it looks like there's two stations, two drive-through stations.
Evan, can you pull your microphone down?
Oh, sorry.
Right.
So-
That was actually something I wanted to ask about, ask the applicant to address, because they've got kind of a ghost lane on the plan. And when they submitted some drawings to show the angle of the menu boards earlier today, they showed menu boards on both the ghost lane and the lane that's actually fleshed out on the plan. So we just wanted them to address that.
I mean, so it's for a potential if volume warranted that we could add another drive-through. So it's there to make our life easier if we need it, and you guys would like us to keep these moving. fast.
Gotcha.
Like how
Yeah,
McDonald's has the two little. things
Right,
there.
yeah.
Gotcha.
It's essentially allows the queue to split and
You don't
go
wanna
to two
put it
more
in initially,
menu
just in
boards.
case the location doesn't warrant it. It always looks funny when you pulled in and there's like one blocked off all the time.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot easier.
But we
to
think
get
we're gonna
everything.
knock out the park, maybe we'll add it.
Yeah.
Alright.
But that inner one, does it still meet the radius requirements? Cause it is tighter, it does.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question.
So my other questions are regard to like the traffic flow.
Mhm.
Cause I remember when we were approving, just this as a special use in that area. I'm not a traffic expert, but we've got lanes coming in and out, both access points. And in and out that closed little parking up front as well as the gas station access. Have we discussed with them possibly having an inflow and an outflow, or like, especially on the west entrance and exit, the ability to or not to turn left, because I think that would be a little bit too much to try to turn left there. If you recall, we're really close to Crooks
Mhm.
there. So just wondering, and then in the little waiting spots, numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, it looks like they can essentially, it's not curved there, they can just pull right through, right?
Yeah.
Which they're not gonna be meeting any other traffic essentially, except for people leaving. But it does, I guess, I don't know how traffic flows here, but I'm a little.
So broadly speaking, maybe I'll switch to the PDF here briefly. Stop the share and so broadly speaking, you have one-way circulation around the building on the site. Because once you get past a certain point, you don't have the width to be going around the drive-through lane. So this is all one way around the bottom of the site. And that comes back out here. When you get up to the two driveways, I think one of the things to consider there is that when we think about maybe an in and an out driveway, those driveways have a certain width and it accommodates two-way traffic. So even if you did sign it without actually narrowing it, you're probably going to get people going both ways.
Right, well, and I guess taking a left into there on the westmost point would be also hard because you got the green turn light and.
Yeah, I think that,
On the east entrance.
yeah, I think the east entrance is going to be the one that's going to have the most activity at it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we mentioned that when we looked at the site before we even knew who was moving into it, and
Right.
we saw there's a problem. Try to exit that lot on the 15 mile during rush hour traffic is not gonna be easy. And can we specify that if you exit a lot, you must turn right on 15 mile?
It's something you can discuss with the applicant. It might be a little more important at the western driveway. I think part of the convenience of that cut through to the gas station is that, let's say I wanted to get onto, you know, Crooks going north or something, I can go through there and just take a right onto Crooks
Is the
instead
gas
of
station gonna
taking
be
a left
through
on
with
the.
customers driving through their lot just to get onto Crooks?
They've also, we contacted the owners of the gas station and we have an agreement pending, so when we finally, because we can't enter an agreement because we don't technically own the property yet, but soon
They want.
they already provided it.
Cause it's gonna help both of us, right? Cause they're gonna have.
We're gonna have you talk at the microphone because people at home
Oh,
won't be able to hear anything you're saying.
You want me
So-
to, would you like me to speak up there?
Do you have any other questions for me before we jump to them?
I just have one question. Where's the dumpster enclosure on this? I'm looking at the annotated plan.
Oh, it's right here. So,
where's
it's
the-
probably really hard to see
Yeah.
my cursor
So
there.
that's. I mean, it's not very clear on how the enclosure actually is designed. Is it part of like? Doesn't look like there's actually an enclosure there. It's just a concrete pad.
Right, let's see
And then
here.
that enclosure would, play into the radius and the drive-through.
The enclosure, you can see the enclosure at the bottom of this sheet up here. So this is what it actually looks like. You can see the masonry. It's kind of uses the same stone banding and brick, with copying to match the building. So it kind of looks like a miniature version of the building.
So the opening of that is facing the drive-through people?
It's facing essentially, yeah, onto the drive-through lane, yeah, so they'll have to have it emptied at they'll have to coordinate the dumpster pickup with their hours of operation.
That's typical.
Yeah.
My last question for Joe was, and I apologize if it's a naive question, but just to understand why we prohibit the roof that they currently have, and as we consider, making that kind of a contingency here to change that or not.
Yeah,
Give us some explanation on
so
pros
that's,
and cons of that. I know it seems like it covers some of the, screening at least in the roof, but
right.
were the negatives.
It's a style point. I wasn't involved in the development of the BRD2 district, so I
That was
don't.
quite a while back.
Yeah.
We started looking at roofs in town, and they decided that we didn't like mansard roofs, but you can't go through and tell anybody that has one to rip it off and change it over.
Right, it's
There's
They're
no
pretty much
risk, there's no
It's an
negative
aesthetic.
impact.
right,
Really,
yeah.
Just aesthetically downtown, they would prefer the
Sure.
style would look different.
And I think I understand that for downtown and
Yeah.
new builds versus.
Right, for downtown, I get it for downtown because
Yeah.
it's mansard roofs were often an obstruction to the traditional form of the buildings. It was this thing that was tacked on later on onto an existing building, and you're trying to go back to that kind of traditional downtown look. Outside of the downtown, I don't have as quite as good a sense of what the reasoning might be. I think it was primarily a style point because it's listed in the BRD2, BRD1, and Westgate districts, which were all developed at the same time after the 2005-ish master plan, something like that. Yeah.
We could just allow this to be grandfathered in at this point then, right?
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
Anything further for Joe?
page 16.
Any questions for the applicant?
I more of a curiosity question, the out front maybe I'm recalling Culver's wrong, because we don't have enough close by, I guess. But do you guys have like little picnic tables? Is that what's gonna go out there on the speckled
Yeah.
sidewalk area?
They're not picnic tables, but
Oh, well, I'm,
they're taking, they're patio.
Yeah, how you doing? So I'm Pano Hanzis. I'm gonna be the operator of this location, so I'll be on site every day working. So, yeah, we have a small 6-table patio out front where, you can dine outside. So a little bit of small outdoor dining out there as well in addition, and that's facing Maple, so it's right on that, I think, the front left-hand corner of the building, the west corner of the building there. So as you pull in, you know, right out front, it's right off here to the
By the
left.
handicap spots.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
right there.
Yep,
Yeah.
and you guys will have your own trash receptacles and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then our staff is part of their, if you've not dined in the Culvers before, it's, you know, very guest interactive, more so than any other kind of fast food, because I don't really consider it fast food. It's more fast casual. Our people are trained to walk those areas constantly as they monitor the drive-through or the dining room, excuse me, to clear and make sure all the stations are clean. That's every 30 minutes you're outside. We power wash it all the time. It will not be a eyesore. We maintain it because it's part of the building, so. Any
Do
other-
you see anything, because I know you, well, and I don't know, do you own more than one?
I personally do not have,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Do
Derek,
you see any issues with the flow of traffic as you're looking at it?
No. I don't, I own 7 other locations and these are all very pretty much typical. I
Yeah,
know this sounds crazy, but as you were talking about this, out of those 7 locations, I've never had a car accident. I know I
Uh-oh.
probably just jinxed it.
yeah.
not lots of wood.
But I did have an elderly lady driving to the building one time, but nothing to do with traffic. She was parked and she hit gas instead of brake, but that was it. So,
Came within 1 foot of getting ran over in Rochester last night in a parking lot. I swear, like I had to jump out of the
but
way.
yeah, no, that is a typical flow for us and,
Yeah.
and it's some of that works very well. So I'm not sure where this is Troy, he's a civil engineer, but we also have Culvers who has several site plans that do this and they do it every day and they know the flow and they know what works best.
Yeah, before we can bring even this
Yeah.
to this point,
Yeah.
we have to satisfy Culvers and their planning commission, if you will, right? They have designers, they do the site planning, and so
And safety. is-
in safety and all of that. So there's we have 2 planning commissions that go in front of
Yeah.
it, so to speak, so
And-
for approval.
And it, like you said, and it's like, it's really important from their standpoint and ours too, because safety is important because we are going outside. We are cleaning those down, the patio, and we are running food to the car, so. The flow,
Yeah.
that is a very typical.
Would you find it, an extraordinary hindrance to, only have a right turn, particularly out of that west? You would,
I do.
interesting.
I do, because from my standpoint is most guests want, they could at least have that option.
Mhm.
And they're gonna want it, and you know, and I guess, you know, we may say, okay, we got them in, but especially for retention and returning customers. It'd be nice to know that they have that option and they have that option. And I also do think some people are smart enough and they think it's a bad idea that they won't, you know, they will use that other route. And since we were talking about that, yeah, the gas station's all on board, so they have it right now, and I do think it'll benefit both of us.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're right, they will probably get some additional traffic.
Mhm.
But I do think they're saying, hey, if one of those 5 people get gas.
I see those 2 items being problematic for you. I think the gas station, you can say, okay, but if they get a lot of traffic, if I own the gas station, I wouldn't be really pleased with a lot of
Yeah.
additional traffic. The people are gonna try to cut through the gas station to get onto Crooks.
Yeah.
To cut out, and then everybody, once you figure that out, everybody's gonna be doing that, so he's gonna get a lot more traffic than I think he expects. As to the turn thing, I would lean towards the sign saying right-hand turn only to exit. If you let it go both ways, people at, 1:30 to 2:30 will be able to pull out of there and hang a left with no problem. After 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, there's no way you're gonna be able to do that.
Safely.
So I guess you'd have to leave it up to the customer themselves. If they're
To
gonna
make a good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the, I'm sorry, to interrupt.
No, no, you go.
I actually, I forget the numbers, been through so many processes. I actually, when I looked at the site, I looked at that. I think it was, I don't know, say maybe 12 or 13 cars. I forgot how many cars back from the light it
Yeah,
was
there's
that.
There's a
Yeah.
turn lane that's.
That
gonna-
turning lane there, yeah. No, trust me, I mean, I work in that area. Grew up in the area, like I know that. Both the intersection there and the Crooks one too, can be very busy.
Maybe Joe could answer it, or even Nick, if this is okay, that they don't have a right-hand turn only sign there. would traffic and safety down the line look at this, and if there's any accidents or problems, they?
So we had both PD and fire take a look at this too. They didn't have any concerns with that. But, you know, based on your discussions, I mean, and what they're saying, it probably could be appropriate to have a no left turn out of that just west entrance. And, you know, most people leaving are going through the drive-through. They're going to leave out of the east entrance anyway.
Right.
I mean, and even the people parking in the front yard parking are probably going to be pulling out of the other entrance anyway. But if it would satisfy you guys, I don't know if it would be a huge problem to just have no left turns onto Maple.
I mean, I don't see it as an issue. Enforcement's another is the real issue. You can put a sign up. We've put up pork chop islands in the middle to try to make right in, right out or whatever. They don't work. People drive over.
As a suggestion, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
although we do get compliance at the CVS, which I remember we discussed at one point in time with the 14 mile in Crooks. There's a no left turn right there,
Yeah.
you know?
But they changed their exit ramp driveway. so
Right,
you're
like he was
forced
saying.
To only go right. You cannot make a left out of some
Right.
areas.
There's not a sign at the gas station to not turn left, so if there's a sign at the Culvers to not turn left. Wouldn't people just go through the gas station?
Yeah, I
When
think,
you're that much closer to the
I
intersection.
think we could at this point leave it without signs, but if you start seeing accidents down the line, I just want to know if the city had any control over it.
It's something with
100%, yeah.
with these
If it ends up
developers.
being a hazard, hey, I'm gonna forbid. Just like you, I don't want to see our gas in danger either. So if it ends up being a hazard, yeah, 100%, yeah, that's for it. We'll put a big old sign out there.
Yeah, and if it is something that comes up and we are seeing an influx in issues over there, we'll certainly take a look, but you know, I don't anticipate anything changing for the most part. And then I know you mentioned the access agreement, it's existing. So if you're referencing people going from Crooks to Maple, I don't see that changing at all because they're not adding in that access. It's existing and they're just making the agreement official between the two parties at this point.
It was never legally recorded.
It's a-
It will be now.
It's a verbal. but-
Yeah,
But you will get legal.
it was there, and I guess that's just the way they let it go,
You're
so.
further ahead if you haven't written out paper.
Yeah.
Found that
We're gonna
out.
get it written down now.
Okay, any further questions for the applicant?
I guess, do you want to address any of the items?
Yeah, so-
that Joe kind of went over at the beginning?
Yeah, so a couple things on the dimensional things. It is required to be 25 foot to center line of the radius. I've got 28.5 foot to center line. I drive a truck. I like nice big radiuses when I can. The future turn lane has the exact same geometrics as the existing one. So 28.5 foot center line radiuses. Lanes, I believe your code requires 10 foot wide drive-through lanes or 12 foot wide drive-through lanes. Again, I like a nice, comfortable to be able to get around there. All of our parking spaces are 20 foot deep. No bumper overhang is taken into consideration. They're all 20 foot deep. When I can accommodate it, I like that depth. Again, I drive a truck. I like a 20 foot wide deep space. So, you know, we were having such a big site, we were able to incorporate the larger turn radiuses, drive aisles, to get people through there as quick as easy as possible, along with getting in the off hours, getting the dumpster through there, getting delivery trucks through there. That helps out with all those. That's something that the corporate Culvers, when like they said, they take a close review of this before we were able to submit to you. And they look at it with how they're going to get trucks in and out and, you know, so it has gone through both my review and then Culver's corporate, their review. So I hope that addresses your questions you had on the dimensional things.
Yes.
And the parking, the stacking are all 20 foot deep or 20 foot shown cars.
Okay.
So those are what you guys require to see in your code.
Did you want to speak to anything that Joe was talking about previously about the landscaping? Did you guys have anything in mind?
So yeah, the landscaping, unfortunately, our normal landscaper who is registered landscape architects, they were busy to the point where they couldn't get it in. We reached out to somebody else. They said they could get us one. Unfortunately, it was schematic. Our normal one is now on board. We've been informed by them that they will get one to Nicholas this Friday. And we do ask that approval by Plan Commission is contingent on his final approval of the landscape plan. And again, I apologize that we weren't able to get that in for your review, but unfortunately, right now, everybody seems to be extremely busy and we do have a landscape architect that is doing that design right now.
We sent over the sign proposal, the sign agreement, just so you guys know it is in place with the landscaping.
Oh, okay, and he's aware of our ordinance and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the word, and then we also addressed, I know the screening for the headlights with the hedgerow coming out of the drive-through hitting Maple there. We addressed that. Then I know there was a comment. I made a mental note because I'm gonna have a conversation with the landscape architect tomorrow. I'll be sure to send them an email to provide a hedgerow across the entire front there of that parking in the front yard facing Maple. So we'll hedgerow that whole thing. I'll make sure that's in the plans as
I think
well.
that was a big point of contention for me, so that's good to hear, but
Okay.
also that where you're tapering up the pavement or, in the interior of the drive-through. Do you guys, is that strictly lawn or is there any plans?
We'd like
that
to
you
do
know of?
a bio cell.
Okay,
We'd like to do a bio cell in that area
all right, that's,
to try to help out with the detention requirements.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so that is the game plan in there is to take it from something that was environmentally a negative, and make it environmentally a positive.
Yeah,
so-
thanks for that information.
And we have had a number of meetings with the city administration on this already, getting ready for this. Submittal to you guys.
What about the pedestrian walkway that Joe had mentioned?
Yeah, so pedestrian walkway, I can see easily incorporating one in there, a striped crosswalk. And then a sidewalk to the existing sidewalk in the right of way. And we will again work with the city engineer and then Nicholas also to get that to work out. Same way we did with the sidewalk at the east end of in the right of way, where we jogged it around. That was something that we discussed with them, got it laid out. Both what we like and what they like. And it worked out nicely. So we have been working with them on doing those different things to make everybody agreeable to the plan.
Further questions for the applicant?
not for the applicant, I just thought, maybe. Did anybody have any issue? I just guess I'll make a point that, to me, the front parking isn't such an issue with the special land use, cause I feel like putting pedestrians so close to such a busy road, if we were asking somehow for them to like use that space for, I don't even know what else they'd use it for, but I just don't feel like that's a feasible obstacle for them to achieve. I don't know if that's something that you guys feel differently about. Cause I know that was one thing we brought up.
I don't see an issue with the front parking personally. I don't know
Okay,
what I do.
as long as there's the landscape and the,
Right.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This is listed as a site plan and special land use review. Do I have to open a public hearing on this part too? I guess, I didn't see that written down here. I was gonna guess that. So, at this point, I will open a public hearing for the special land use review of 1331 West Maple Culvers. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none, I got 2 thumbs up back.
Can you say that under the microphone?
I will close that, and then we will have to make a motion and vote on that, correct?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion on this special land use part of it only. We'll do that first, like we did before. Do that first. And
Oh, he did it.
then-
Yeah, I can do this one again. Why not? Yeah, so approval for a special land use for 1331 West Maple Road. This applicant, Culvers, I don't know if to specify that, but
Motion.
I would specify by saying to permit a drive-through restaurant. Because that's how it's written in the ordinance.
so you want me to repeat that? So.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the special land use at the address 1331 West Maple Road for a drive-through restaurant.
Second.
Got support? And can I have roll call on that, please?
Ms. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Cusero,
Yes,
and Mr. Nushai.
Yes.
motion passes. Now I will entertain a motion on the site plan approval for the same location. With contingencies if people have them.
Yeah, I will, make a motion to approve site plan for 1331 West Maple. With the contingency of a review and approval on the site plan, or, sorry, the landscape plan, the light plan, and, the sign approval. I'm just not sure, does the sign approval cover the exterior menu signs as well, all that jazz? Or do I have to make a special thing for
Oh, what side are you referencing?
which what?
Sign are you referencing?
When I say approval of,
The menu sign?
yeah, does that cover all the signs or do I need to specify? Like the drive-through signs?
The drive-through menu boards are part of site plans, so, you should know basically that the menu boards have to meet our standards.
The menu, okay. You want me to repeat that? Just the last part or no?
I've got it.
Okay.
I can tell you they're not taller than they're supposed to be, because I'm looking at the plans that they submitted today, and they meet the height limit.
Okay. Oh, and do we wanna, we already addressed the pedestrian stuff, right? If anybody wants to add to that.
You'd want to include it in your motion. So the ones,
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the,
okay.
what I have for you right now is in your motion is the landscaping plan, photometric plan, the menu board, meet the city standards. And then I think that the two other items Joe wanted to have added is that the mansard roof is accepted as an existing nonconformity, and then the park in the front yard is also accepted as an existing nonconformity. And then whatever the planning commission decides when it comes to the pedestrian crossing.
Yeah, I mean, I would like proper labeling of pedestrian crossing. I don't know if that's something we actually gave explicit instructions to the applicant on and discussed enough, or if you feel like you're confident moving forward with.
I have to move
with
forward
that.
to approval by, city manager, assistant city manager and or, the engineer.
You guys okay with that? Yeah.
Does anyone want to add anything to it? Does anyone want to support the motion?
I mean, are we supporting, should I say that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Could you say those
Yeah.
nonconformity items that way?
Nick's not technically commissioned, but
Just-
yeah.
just
so
here to help.
no offense. I will add to my motion that we are going to accept the non-conformities of the roof and the front parking. And add in the approval of the pedestrian signage and safety approval.
Got it.
Still second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, more comments? I will take a roll call, please.
Mr. Cusero,
Yes.
Mr. Nushai,
Yes.
Ms. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
and Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
And welcome to Clausen.
Thank you.
When
Thank you very much.
when do you think you open the doors?
Give us about 9 months-ish.
Yeah,
Oh.
9 months.
9 months-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Congratulations.
thank
No,
you so
thank you,
much. Yeah,
guys. I'm
we're
super happy.
really excited to be in Clausen, and I looked for the last 2 years, so. And looked in far and wide and grew up in Troy. My parents owned a restaurant in Royal Oak, and I feel like I'm coming like full circle here. I'm in Clausen.
Oh, we feel like we're on the right side of the.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
everybody.
Really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it. Gentlemen, thank you.
Joe.
Agenda item number
feel like
9
you-
is other business. Anybody have any other business to deal with?
I would just make one comment for the record that the sustainability committee is meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. If anybody wants to join, it is virtual. Pass along the information.
Do you allow, so you allow people to just come and attend?
Yeah,
Okay.
Open to the public.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it's virtual and open to the public.
I think there's information on the website, but you can always.
Yeah, I can provide that.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
The Zoom link and all that?
Yeah.
jazz? Okay.
Okay, how about planners report?
Yes, keep it somewhat brief here, but I did want to note that we're going to be back on the master plan horse at the next meeting. We had 2 public hearings tonight, so we did not add anything to the agenda. We figured we had enough to sink our teeth into. One of the things that you will see at the next meeting is a full summary of our survey that launched in the late summer. We had 374 total respondents. And most of the questions got close to that number of responses. There were a few questions that got less than others, but for the most part, most people answered most of the questions.
In terms of all the modules as well.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we did pretty well. The general survey got the most, of course. Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback. We got a lot of dots on our maps. So we're combing through all of that. We're compiling the full results. The full results of the survey will appear in the appendix to the plan when we have a final adopted plan sometime next year. But we will also include a kind of top line summary. The summary that I'm looking at right now is 11 pages, 1.15 spaced in words. So it's pretty substantial. But it's a lot of data. It's a lot of information to work with. We're happy with the amount of information we got out of it. Just a couple top line items. Most of our respondents, about 93%, were owners of single family homes. We had about 4% renting single family homes as well, and the rest were spread out among a variety of other options, either renters or business owners or some other property owner or something. The biggest age group for responding to the survey was 35 to 54. That was almost half of our respondents were in that age group. When we asked whether people were likely to speak positively about Clawson to others, 85% of our respondents said that they were likely or very likely to speak positively about Clawson to others. And most of the people who did not say that were neutral. We only had 4% who said they're unlikely or very unlikely to do so. So generally speaking, the people who took the survey have a positive impression of our city. As expected, when we asked what the biggest challenges for Clawson were, comments that were related to aging and infrastructure, roads, sewers, electrical infrastructure, issues related to flooding and power outages were by far the biggest issues that we had. And some people did also note that we have a relatively small tax base to support improvements. So I think a lot of our respondents were somewhat cognizant of some of the financial challenges that we have with meeting those other challenges. But I think we expected those answers to rise to the top of that question. And one other thing I wanted to highlight, and we'll move on, was that about 70% of our respondents indicated that they walk, run, or bike for recreation or exercise. Another 37% indicated that they sometimes walk or bicycle to run errands. But only a quarter of our respondents said that they feel safe biking on the street. And another percent indicated a desire to complete errands on foot or by bike, but they didn't feel safe to do so. So those are some interesting findings from those questions. And they could point us to some of the work that we have to do in terms of our non-motorized infrastructure.
Not a big enough group to demand bicycle lanes yet, right?
Probably not, but perhaps some better routing, better signage, a little bit of traffic calming might help address some of those concerns.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And sorry, while we got you, from the workshop we had last session before this planning committee meeting, we were gonna take some.
Oh,
of
the
that
online version is coming out later this week. Yeah.
Okay, so you
Yep.
are gonna have that available.
Yeah, it's live now. I just haven't shared the link with Nick and Joan.
Okay, great, because I did comment online, and I think people were excited
Yes.
to answer some questions for that downtown portion.
Good.
Yeah, can you share, did you ask, have you guys shared the link?
That's what.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's what you were just saying?
It's live. I just haven't shared the link with Nick and Joan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about.
They'll get it
ours.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, agenda item number 11 is staff report and training opportunities.
So once we do get that link for the DDA master plan, we'll share it online on our social media, and then I'll email the link onto the 9 of you. That way, if you want to share it to your own people that you know, own community, that way you can do that. As Commissioner Sullivan also shared, tomorrow night is the sustainability meeting. That link, the Zoom meeting link, can be found on our website on the Clawson Naturally homepage. One of the other items I want to touch on is during the next planning commission meeting on December 12th, on top of the master plan discussion, we're gonna have a preliminary review of a PUD application for 150 North Main Street and 36 Lincoln. So that is a former PNC building right across the street here on North Main Street. And so on Monday, staff met with their team to go over their initial PUD plan, give them some feedback. So they're making some changes to their plan. So if anyone is interested and wants to talk about it and go over the current plan, I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you about that on your own time, so we can coordinate a time separately. But once we get their final plan and approval in the packet, we'll certainly email that out to all of you. So the final item, the addition to the temporary certificates of occupancy, as you can see that the Clawsonian, which is the residential portion of the ACE project in downtown, was given a TCO. The TCO was given to allow some tenants to move into the site as their build out and building alterations was completed and approved. They just had some smaller items that we're waiting to wrap up on the exterior of the property. We didn't want that to hold up the residential tenants moving in. So they're hoping to get the TCO completed as soon as possible. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
While you're on TCOs, the first line, here we go again. 288 West 14 Mile, ongoing review of the TCO status with administration. It's been this way for 6 months to a year now. Is there any progress being made?
And as I shared, our attorney has filed some reports and is moving forward on that. I can't go into any other detail at this time, but we do have some concrete items moving forward.
Making headway after a year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I like the additions on here of the new businesses opening. Like Gus's Irish Pub will be opening soon here, I think. And Grand River Brewery, I think they're already starting to serve beer, I think, to some people bought mugs earlier.
Oh, yeah, just on that, because I actually bought a mug club.
So you
support
bought a
them.
mug?
Yeah, it's $150, but it's a lifetime membership.
Oh.
So it's investment, if you will.
Oh, the beer you can drink or what?
They are gonna do, I think their first event on Monday, I believe. So that's just for people who bought the mug club, and then I think they're opening shortly after that.
Do you lend your bug out at all?
Yeah, I don't really know it was more just to support the business. I think you get some special discounts for things.
You didn't actually get a mug?
No, you
Okay.
take one home and then. bring it
But
back.
you take it there and like get free refills or like what is, you don't know?
I don't
Okay.
have details. It's on the website
Okay.
or the page, but they offer some kind of like $1 off and then like special happy hours for Mug Club members. But just want to say, I think people are excited about these new restaurants, and I think Monday for just Mug Club members, they're gonna be open for their first, dinner service plus beer, which is cool. And then I
Yep.
think Gus's was opening.
Both of those they're doing a soft opening early in December as they get their staff trained up. And then I believe they want to do some larger grand openings later that month. So they'll both be able to be stopped at by the public very soon.
Very good.
And then just one note, Nick, it looks like the sustainability Clawson Naturally page isn't updated from like our previous. We used to do Mondays. It still says Monday, but I believe we switched the time. So
I'll talk to Stephanie tomorrow morning and we'll get that updated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just make one, I should have done another business, but I was asked by Superior Millworks to kind of just let everybody know that they at 260 Tecumseh, there is the Santa mailbox. So if you have little ones and want to take your letter to Santa, just make sure you have return postage. Santa will write you back. So I told him I'd let everybody know. For all those, planning commission watchers. And a total side note, I just remembered I forgot something on our Culvers that I never said no. The left turn, I don't think I specified that. And I know that things changed once we leave the meeting, so I didn't know if there's something I can do to amend that now. But that was not addressed, the no left turn out of
Yeah, we did address that.
we did on the west, did I have that?
It wasn't in motion, I believe.
It wasn't in my motion.
Basically, we're not gonna force them to put a sign up to that effect. I guess people are just.
Oh, okay.
people
I
just-
thought we were moving the other way. All right, then never
Yeah.
mind.
If it becomes a problem down the line, we'll have to deal with it separately then.
I didn't
Certainly.
know that's what, sorry.
Okay.
No, you're good.
So.
Better
go
check
raise
now than
Santa
later,
Claus, I
right?
guess, that's all.
Okay, staff reporting good, no legal update, no attorney tonight. The only thing I have is tomorrow night is the tree lighting, I believe, across the street at 6:30. And then caroling, I understand some singers from the school are gonna be there and Santa Claus will show up. And unless anybody else has any more comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion support, and have a roll call, please.
Mr. Solomon,
Yes.
Mr. Scott, Ms. Redmond, Mr. Nushai,
Yes.
Mr. Kucera,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Respectful. Yeah. Early might be better.